Welcome to session 2 of Auditing 304, Corporate Governance and Auditing. Corporate governance is about how organizations are managed and controlled, the composition of management, the line of authority and responsibilities plays a major role in auditing. This session therefore seeks to introduce students to the impact of corporate governance on auditing. At the end of the session, students will be able to explain the term corporate governance, outline the objects of corporate governance, discuss the OECD principles of corporate governance, identify and distinguish between the various committees of the board of directors and their role in corporate governance. This session covers the following topics: corporate governance, object of corporate governance, the OECD principles, the role of the board of directors, committees of the board, and the audit committee. To read more on this, consult the recommended text, chapter 1 of Solomon, that is Corporate Governance and Accountability, 4th edition. Also the session slides and other auditing and textbooks that will be available to students. Corporate governance, what is this? Corporate governance is a system by which business or corporations are directed and controlled. It involves the evaluation of the responsibilities of directors, the composition of the board of directors, the board committees, internal and external audit. It encourages the running of organization efficiently in the interest of all stakeholders. Corporate governance exists broadly due to agency problem. That is the problem that exists between managers and shareholders in terms of the resources of the organization. Sometimes managers may want to go things about their interests, but the shareholders, the company belongs to the shareholder or the entity belongs to the shareholder, and therefore wants things to be done in their best possible way. But this does not always happen, so corporate governance comes in to help in this situation. Okay, now let's look at the objects of corporate governance. One is to ensure that organizations are strategically positioned to achieve its aims, to promote the effective monitoring of management by the board of directors, to ensure accountability of the board of directors to all stakeholders, and to also to ensure that board of directors are composed of by competent individuals. And further, to promote the balance of power and to also ensure an efficient and effective system of risk management to ensure a fair remuneration system. Now let's turn our attention to the OECD principles of corporate governance. These principles are to see to the strategic guidance of the company, the effective monitoring of management by the board, and the board's accountability to the company and the shareholders. The OECD principles have 6 main principles that is of interest: ensuring the basis for an effective corporate governance framework, the right of shareholders and key ownership function, the equitable treatment of shareholders, the role of stakeholders in corporate governance, disclosure and transparency, and the responsibilities of the board. Now let's look at the governance of companies as posited by the OECD principles. Companies are governed by a board of directors. This same board of directors control the company, while the chief executive officer, the one that is often known, and the management team manages the resources of the company. Mainly, there are 2 main models of the structure of the board. We have the 2-tier board and we have the unitary board. The 2-tier board. Here we are saying that there is the executive board and there is the supervisory board. The executive board is made up of management of the company. That is the part of the board that is made up of, that runs the day-to-day affair of the company. And then the supervisory board oversees the part of the board called the executive board that manages the activities of the organization on day-to-day basis. Normally the supervisory board are made up of representatives of employees, investors, and other stakeholders. Unlike the 2-tier board, the unitary board is made up of 1 but have 2 main categories. They form as 1 board, but we have the executive board and then the non-executive board as the 2 categories under the unitary board. The executive board are the directors who occupy functional positions in the company, easily known as management. Here they are employees of the organization. But the non-executive board are made up of directors who are not employees of the company. They exercise oversight of the actions of management. So looking at here, basically the two-tier and the unitary board are almost the same, but in unitary board, the two form as one main board, but in the two-tier, there are two separate boards doing basically similar things, whilst the executive manages, the supervisory board oversees the work of the executive. The role of the board, as they assume responsibility of leadership and control of the entity, direct and supervise the corporate affairs, make decisions in the interest of organization, review and guide corporate strategy, select, compensate, monitor, when necessary, replace key executives and oversee succession plan, review key executive board and board remuneration. So basically, the board is in charge of the corporations and they run every aspect of the corporation, but they report to shareholders, mainly or mostly on general meetings. There are more functions of the board, so I entreat you to read more on the functions of board. Board functions perfectly with committees. So the board is one, but they work under several committees. So we'll look at some of the committees. The first one I want to look at is the remuneration committee. The remuneration committee recommend pay awards to senior executives. The risk management committee initiate policies on identifying, assessing, and managing financial, business, and operational risks in companies with assistance of internal auditor. The nomination committee recommend the appointment of candidates for board and senior executives. The audit committee, very important part committee, and very interested in this committee because it forms part of auditing. They are to liaise with auditors and the main board. It is a stock in the world currently. Most stock exchanges require that all listed companies have an audit committee made up of at least 3 non-executive board members who are to review the work of external auditors. At least one member of the committee must have a recent and relevant financial experience or be financially literate. The functions, what are the functions of the audit committee? One, we're saying that they monitor the integrity of financial statement. 2, they review companies' internal financial controls, monitor and review the effectiveness of internal audit functions, make recommendations for appointment and removal of external auditors and their remuneration, review and monitor external auditors' work, independence, objectivity, and the effectiveness of audit process, review and arrange for confidential reporting by employees and investigation of possible improprieties. There are several other functions of the audit committee, and I will entreat you to read more on that. Looking at all this, is the audit committee an important committee board must form? Yes. So let's look at some of the advantages of the audit committee of the board. Increasing public confidence in the credibility and objectivity of published financial statement, assist non-executive directors in meeting their responsibilities in respect of financial reporting, strengthen the independent position of a company external auditor by providing an additional channel of communication, improve the quality of management, accounting, being better placed to criticize internal functions. But it comes with certain disadvantage too. I fear that their purpose is to catch management. Non-executive directors being overburdened with so much details, and it's serving as additional costs in terms of time and money. Wonderful. We've managed to go through the second session, and I'm sure you followed it. Don't forget, consult the recommended text and read more.